I'd like to call to order the Plan Commission meeting for May 3rd, 2022 at 6 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Attendance roll call.
Commissioner Graff. Here. Commissioner Oliver.
Here.
Alderman Madden. Commissioner Gazana.
Here.
Commissioner Bartlett.
Here.
Commissioner Buckmaster. Mayor Pefelsky.
Here.
Planner Trizbatowski.
Here. We have a quorum. Thank you. Statement of public notice.
This agenda was posted and distributed to all news media requesting notification in accordance with the open meeting laws on Sunday, May 1st.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes from April 7th, 2022 meeting.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Consent business.
Resolution PC 029-2020, approval of the sale of fireworks for Freedom Fireworks at Pops Marketplace along Janesville Road. Resolution PC 030-2022, approval of a building site and operation plan amendment for Danny Haskell's Bar and Grill located on Landon Drive. Resolution PC 031-2022, approval of a 4-lot extraterritorial certified survey map in the town of Norway. And Resolution PC 032-2022, approval of a metal structure, accessory structure for Mr. Yucatel on Parker Drive.
Looking for a motion?
Motion to approve in total. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Old business resolution PC 056-2021, approval of an annual review for Fry Auto located on Loomis Drive. I assume that's still working its way through the court system?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on any of that? Moving on to new business for consideration. Resolution PC 028-2022, recommendation to the Common Council to rezone a property from A1 Agricultural District to RCE Country Estates District to RCE Country Estate District for Byron Herren, located at South 99 West 20523 Parker Drive, tax key number 2280 999014.
Move to approve.
I will second.
Any discussion?
This is a real simple rezoning. Right now, the property is split zoning. They're looking at making it all consistent with zoning that's in the neighborhood. The land division that's already been approved is not contingent on this. It's more just a cleanup thing that makes it easier for mapping purposes and for future buyers.
Questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Resolution PC 033-2022, approval of a building site and operation plan amendment for Jack's Wheel Food to be located in the parking lot of Muskego Feed and Seed located at W184 South 8365-95 Challenger Drive, tax key number 2223 994004.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
So this proposal is for a mobile food vendor, so like a food cart, not quite a food truck, that is looking at operating, as is noted, in a parking lot of a business in the industrial park. They've kind of noted their plan is to not just like advertise to anybody, even though anyone can go there. It's really to service people in that park. It's starting out on a pretty small scale. There'll just be a few days a month or a week here and there. And they kind of look at the first 60 days as being a trial period. And then, you know, if that goes smooth for them and we don't have any issues come up, it would allow them to do it through the rest of the year. They show a site plan, kind of the area they want to locate in. It should take up 2 or 3 parking stalls, but like I said, a pretty small endeavor. And because any outdoor operations and sales that are repetitive or scheduled at a site need a BSO amendment, that's why they made this request. They're looking at doing it strictly during lunchtime. The owners have been made aware the city is in the process of working on some ordinances relating to food trucks and food cart licensing, which, if that comes forward in the future, they would be subject to, and they are aware of that. But staff doesn't see any issues with the way they're proposing operation at this time and are recommending approval.
Point of reference, though. So food trucks, that's not in our preview right now. This is unique because it's going to be established at this business.
Any food truck that's operating on a regular basis, a repetitive basis, a scheduled basis should be coming to Plan Commission. If it's just a random one up, like my business decided to host a luncheon and I'm having a food truck for one day out of the year, we don't really oversee that now, as long as it's on private property. It's not allowed on public property. But in the case of this, because they want to do it on a regular schedule and repetitively, that's why it's in front of the Plan Commission.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Resolution PC 034, 2022, approval of a building site and operation plan amendment for Eagle Park Brewing Company located at South 64 West 15680 Commerce Center Parkway, tax key number 21669970003.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
So this proposal is the exact same as what Eagle Park looked to do last year. With COVID originally, they were looking at having more outdoor seating. Their original site approvals that have a smaller outdoor seating area that hasn't come to fruition yet. I think they realize there's a need for a bigger outdoor area, as their success last summer showed us and showed them. So this plan is, like I said, exact same as last year. They're blocking off a few parking stalls on one end of the parking lot with some movable planters. It looked really nice last year. They're keeping 2 parking stalls marked as no parking, so as cars do come down to, which becomes a dead end temporarily, they have the ability to turn around, and I know they used those signs last year and it seemed to work. They've noted they are asking for just this one more year on this temporary basis, as they are working towards a permanent solution. We haven't seen it yet, that they will be coming forward to Plan Commission this fall for, so that they can have it for next summer. So just one more year to what was done last year. We didn't have any known issues last year.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Resolution PC 035, 2022, approval of 4-lot certified survey map for Ken Survey on property located at South 81 West 16448 Kurtz Lane, tax key number 2218981.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion?
This item and the next item, too, number 36, we'll kind of talk about one and the same, at least on my end, as the first one, item number 35, is a 4-lot land split. As a reminder, certified survey maps, which are land divisions of 4 lots or less, are done via certified survey map. So the total number of lots in this development between the 2 consecutive CSMs, because one CSM is redividing one of the other lots on the first, there'll be a total of 6 single-family buildable lots as proposed as part of the division, with 1 outlot. Per city ordinance, when a land division is happening on a waterway or a lake that's public, they need to provide a lake access. That does not mean boat launch. It means just an access where anyone could access the lake. An analogy is similar to some of the lake accesses you see on Little Muskego Lake, a passive area where someone can walk to the water and still enjoy it. The ordinance states if there's not a public access within a half a mile, it has to be provided. So that is why the 1 outlot is shown. But then there's 6 single-family lots. The zoning that's here is already set up for single-family homes. They do not need a rezoning as part of this proposal, as their proposal meets the current zoning as far as width, area, and frontage on the roadways. This is in the process of going through the technical review through engineering department, and the approval is being noted as subject to all of the corrections or notes or any comments or questions that come up as part of that technical review, which is standard for any certified survey map. There's one item that kind of came up in our due diligence and as of recent and per our attorney's suggestion, there is an amended resolution in front of you tonight, and it's in the packets online too. There was some questions about an existing area of right-of-way, a road cul-de-sac bulb that's in the property. Per the surveyor's research, they show that cul-de-sac is dedicated right-of-way. And as such, our attorney wanted us to clarify that the resolution states, be it further resolved that approved as granted herein is conditioned upon the vacation of Kurtz Court in accordance with the city's road vacation policy to determine compensation in the event that the land division results in lots encroaching upon the city's road right-of-way. Our attorney just wanted us to clarify that to make sure that there's no question that that right-of-way would have to go through the vacation process. And per our policy for any right-of-way vacations, Public Works and Safety Committee will have to review any right-of-way vacation request and determine if compensation is required for said request. Otherwise, like I said, the bulk land division requirements are met pending that technical review. Yeah.
Questions, comments?
No, looks good.
Does the petitioner want to add anything? No? All right. Okay, so this isn't the public hearing, but I believe there's a number of people here that want to speak on this item. What I will ask is keep your comments brief. Like I said, this isn't a public hearing. If you've heard your comments spoken before, if multiple people are going to say something, try to keep your comments to something fresh so we're not repeating ourselves constantly. If you do want to come up. I think you may have filled out, there may be cards back there to fill out. If you haven't, at least state your name and address for the record and come up to the microphone.
Fill out a card. Joe Peterson, West 165.
Is the microphone on?
I'm sorry?
Okay, I just want to make sure the microphone's on.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I can talk really loud anyway. On the first set of documents, there's a section of highlighted property etched off across the street from Kurtz Lane that's got a red marking around it. It talks about it, but it doesn't say what you're going to do with it. How is that part impacted? If you look on the left-hand side,
That
Of
large
Kurtz Lane?
field,
the large area.
that's future developable land, I would
So,
assume, but it's not part of this.
Do you want me to answer as they come up?
Yeah.
Okay. So right now, the lot that's subject to the review and the lot to the west are one legal tax key number, one tax bill for both. So they're legally one lot. The ordinance reads is when you have leftover land, if you want to call it, a remnant land that's over 20 acres, you don't have to show it on the certified survey map if it's intended to be undeveloped this time. And since there are no plans for that, that's why it's not part of the certified survey map. So this proposal has nothing to do with that west side of the land. Nothing has been proposed to us for anything west of Pellman Lane or Kurtz Lane at this time.
So what about the stormwater and stuff like that? Is there going to be a pond across the way or like a holding pond or something like that?
Not that's proposed now as part of the engineering review that's pending. Any kind of stormwater stuff will be looked at as part of that review. But I don't think it would be across the site because that's not part of this development. If they start doing something across the site, that changes the certified survey map. So during the review, if something is needed and they can't handle it on site, which that would have to be determined, then that could change this, and this would have to come back if it changes the certified survey map boundaries.
Okay, one more, please. The outlot that you mentioned, you said it was not going to be no boat launch at all, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I guess I want to stress, yeah.
Let's be clear on that. I have no plans to bring anything forward like that. The city currently has no plans on something like that. I'm not going to make promises for what future common councils and mayors may do. I think the plan right now is to have something very passive, like a path going down to see the lake type thing. But that's.
And I've seen that around Little Muskego, and that seems to work out
right
nice.
now, right?
Did you plan a pier on the end?
There's
and also,
been no
of
discussion.
the 6 other lots, there's going to be piers sticking out into a major jetway.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be really impacting
They will have to.
jet skiing.
Yeah, they'll have to follow all the DNR rules for piers. DNR has sole jurisdiction over pier length, placement, size, quantity, everything.
Okay, as long as this doesn't turn into a no-wake lake.
This has nothing to do with the wake of the lake.
If you're going to put a bunch of piers out there and a bunch of access for a lot more fishermen, I know there's public access on Big Muskego, but if you're going to make it very easy for people to get on there with a boat launch, you're going to flood that tiny little lake with a bunch of fishermen. They're going to get awfully upset
when people are skiing and jet skiing around them, and all of a sudden you're going to get complaints and turn it into a no-wake lake.
Right now, there is no plans for a boat launch, and it's not something I would prefer to see out there.
But you understand a homeowner who pays the taxes to live on that lake, they're concerned. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Colette Clenz. I live at West 166 South 8282 Kurtz Lane. I have lived there since May of 1991. First bought the house, it was a cottage, redid it, now it's a regular house for the most part. I have some grave concerns, one of them being the outlot that he spoke about. When I look at the CSM, and while I understand as a developer, you want the most bang for your buck, but why couldn't that outlot be put where the cul-de-sac is? You'd have then your street, bring that in the middle of those lots, because the owner of the property to the north of that outlot bought that property with not having a public access next to them and paid a lot of money for that. There is a difference in land and homes when you buy a lot next to a public access. Everybody knows it on any lake you're on. Now you're impacting him. On the other side of that, if you move it down to the neighbor to the south, that'd be Nancy Verbert, you would do the same to her. But if you use that existing roadway, which is on that right there, lot 3, and you come in instead of removing that, and you take that lot, that public access all the way out to the lake, and you put only a pier instead of having to have where the cul-de-sac comes forward onto the water, that is the most narrow point of Bass Bay. From that point, if you look at an overhead view across the lake, everyone's concern on the lake is that you will have between that lot 3 and what becomes lot 4 on the next CSM, 2 piers that have the potential to be not only in the middle of the waterway, but to cut off all boat traffic. And I know you guys might not understand this or doesn't matter to you, but it does to us. We ski, we boat, we do all of that. We're not a big lake, we're not a wide lake, we don't have multiple options. We have a very narrow way. People don't park in that area, even though it's the best shoreline, it's sand. It is. You can walk out at least 20 feet in knee-deep water, if not less, on all sand bottom. It is, besides the old Sandy Beach, it is one of the only areas on the bay you can do that. That's a huge concern. I don't understand why you wouldn't take care of your existing residents who bought and aren't developing before you stick a public access right next to them. My next point on all of this is if you do have a public access, will there be signage saying no camping? Will there be signage that says no boats being left overnight, no wave runners, no lifts, no any of those things? I did used to work for the city of Muskego. I did actually do what he's doing for the Plan Commission. I know the complaints that come in on the public accesses. I know the debris, I know the garbage, I know the young kids drinking, I know all of that. So I'm not naive. And I know all those things happen. Everyone has the right to see water, but I also pay more. If at the point our lake becomes that we can't use motors or we can't do our things, what are you doing to compensate us? I know you're saying this committee does not want it, but that doesn't mean future don't want it. I don't think any of you would like if we came in and bought land right next to you and said, hey, by the way, we're putting public access into your backyard, because that's what it is. When you look at the wetland, there is no wetland delineation on these CSMs. I understand the second page of them delineates it. Most normal people don't look to the second page. My question is, can you add verbiage to that first page? Because when I looked at what is listed for sale, it does not show the wetlands. It doesn't show how small their buildable area is. It doesn't, unless they're looking at the second page, they have no idea. It's just a shit show. And
please watch your language.
My apologies. It's just a hot mess, and it means nothing to most people, but I don't really want neighbors to move in screaming mad because they can't fill or they do start filling. We talked about, when I came in today, making a hard paved path down the outlot, down to the water. Now, I have not walked that property in a long, long time, but I can tell you my lake on my property, to get down there to have any hard path, you're not going to do it. And I'm not being disrespectful, I'm being honest. We are not like a lot of lakes. If you look at the history of Bass Bay, where my house sits on Kurtz Lane was actually the original shoreline. When the farmers drew it down to farm it, we now are sitting our yards are actually lake bottom. So we are completely different than a lot of the other lakes near us. I would like you to consider all of those things as you're looking at it. You talked about the DNR and that they have the peer control. And while I understand that, you're still the governing body we're supposed to go to besides dealing with them. And as he explained, the concern of the peers, as I explained today when I met with you guys, I'm not looking to make them have a community pier. That is not, they buy on the lake, they want to be on the lake. But I do think it's in everyone's best interest for those future homeowners and the city and the tax base to look at those things and talk it through. Don't just say, don't push it onto it's the DNR. Open the communication and have something out there. When you look at those 6 lots that are becoming there, we have a sanitary sewer or a lift station at the end of Kurtz Lane. What happens with that and who bears the cost if that has to be improved? Because I don't see any of that. I understand you said it's going to the other committees, but when do we know those outcomes? When are we allowed to see them? The road improvements on Kurtz Lane, as far as the additional traffic, with the public access, where they're parking. I get the 6 lots will give us traffic. I understand that compared to the one house. However, an outlot, public access, where are they parking? As you have that sitting right now on that outlot, I don't know if any of you drove by, but that property directly to the north, all they have for a driveway is enough to park 1 vehicle, and that's it. So they stack them side by side. When they have people over, because they're new to the lake in the last 2 years, they're up and down the road. So is it their ability then that they call in and they say, hey, we have people over, don't ticket them. These are the license plates. I mean, these are things we're asking you to give direction on. Whereas if you move it over to the cul-de-sac and it comes straight out, if public access, they can park right there. They can do what they want. In a public access, you have boats, snowmobiles, all of that. Will that be restricted or will that be all allowable to go out? And when I say boat, I understand you're saying it's not a launch. I'm asking specifically like kayaks being dragged down. Have you looked at how you're doing it, what you're thinking of? Park and Rec, have they looked at it? And then what kind of signs would be marked? We already have people coming down all the time pulling boats, taking out our mailboxes when they're trying to turn around when they realize it's not a thorough road and that there is no public launch here. So will there be more signage on Kurtz Lane? Yes, public access, but no boat launch. How will you handle all of that? And lastly, my last question goes across to the field, which I know you said isn't part of this. But at the point that gets developed and we already have a public access, who owns the public access? Is that then the outlot that becomes at the point of this CSM becomes City of Muskego property, or is it still the landowner tied with the tax key across back to the farmland?
I think he's writing these down and then we're going to go through them. So. Any other questions?
Nope, I went through it.
All right, thank you. Good, thank you. You want to address the outlot ownership?
Yeah, I mean, so ownership, I mean, just like Little Muskego Lake, the outlots are owned by the City of Muskego. So from day one, Outlot 1 will be a City of Muskego outlot, and that land to the west has no tie to anything on this side of the road, especially relating to that outlot. Do you want to kind of hit on everything here? So, as far as using the existing road as public access, the city typically doesn't dictate where public access. The ordinance doesn't say city gets to pick where they want it. It says an access has to be dedicated to us. So that's the location that was proposed. I mean, Plan Commission Council can comment on that, but that's at the staff level. That's what the ordinance reads. As far as the piers impeding into the water, not to punt off on the DNR, but we don't have city pier rules. The City of Muskego never has, not on any of our lakes, whether it's the Noon or Little Muskego or Big Muskego. The DNR, and we deal with them definitely as we need to, but that's their authority. We don't have that jurisdiction, we don't have that authority. We can't make up rules as we go, and we would be if we were dealing with it. When there's deep peer issues, the DNR does get involved and they do address them, and I've seen it happen in many, many occasions. As far as signage goes, yeah, our lake accesses, at least on Little Muskego, since that's where the bulk of them are, all have uniform signage that talks about what can and can't happen there, as well as signage that either numbers or names the access. And I would expect in Park and Conservation Committee, I'm sure to make this final call, but I would think this would be treated the same as all the others to keep them all equal, uniform signage and things such as that. And I know that there are lists of like do's and don'ts at those sites. And when it comes to any programming or any details of the use of the site, it is all going to lie in the hands of the Park and Conservation Committee as a starting spot, as they oversee all parks and lake access is really deemed a park. As far as wetlands go, with CSMs, CSMs aren't like they used to be. CSMs used to be 3 pages, 4 pages at most. CSMs now, with easements, with different statutory and ordinance requirements, with wetland tables having to be provided and extensive notes and easements the city requires, it is physically impossible to show everything on one single page. Any buyer, anyone in real estate will tell you should not just look at the first page. I mean, we have very pertinent details on pages 2, 3, 4, 5 on a lot of CSMs. We have some CSMs that are 15 pages and every page is just important as the last. So it is physically impossible to show them all on one. And anyone, if a buyer doesn't do their due diligence and look at the proper documents, I mean, that's nothing the city can do about that. We will always provide the full document to anyone that looks at it down the road. As far as paved path goes, that's something that will have to be determined by probably Park and Conservation, at least as a start. Lift station cost. As part of this, the lift stations are usually planned for future development. Our utility department will be looking at that as part of this current technical review that's going on. If there would ever be a need for any improvements caused by development are usually bared by the cost of the development. But we don't know that that's even a case here yet, as it probably isn't, as lift stations aren't usually sized for existing. They're usually sized for future for that exact reason, so you don't have late in the game costs. But that would have to be looked at. As far as Kurtz Lane improvements go, there's no noted improvements on Kurtz Lane as far as parking goes right now. However, Kurtz Lane is signed for parking, which I believe is not restricted to no parking or anything. It would stay that way. And if problems would develop, just like on any road in the city, there may have to be changes to that, but hopefully there aren't. But there are numerous roads around numerous lakes in the city that have some type of parking restriction to make sure it doesn't become a problem for the neighborhood. I think that covers them.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
James Wright, Kurtz Lane, lifelong resident of Muskego.
Can you give your actual address?
West 165, South 8266, Kurtz Lane.
Thank you.
23-year resident on Bass Bay. I have 4 concerns. Bear with me, I'll just read through them. Some are repetitive, but so be it. Indian burial ground study. In the 23 years I've been there, numerous times in spring, I see gentlemen out in the field panning and sticking and looking for Indian heads. And there are some mounds on the property that is being sold that I've been informed of that are Indian burial grounds. And I know in other areas around Bass's Bay, certain artifacts and certain things have been found and documented. So I don't know if this is something that is addressed with this current situation or should be addressed prior to development and preserve anything that's out there that is found or deemed, Indian burial ground. That was my first. Kurtz Lane road conditions. The addition of heavy truck traffic further damaging the road. Currently, I think we are in need of road repair as it is. They're what I call reverse speed bumps in our road, that if you're towing a trailer or hauling something in a pickup truck, you have load shift. And even there's been construction down the road on homes and semi trucks backing in, they're careful with the road too. But currently I believe that we are in road repair situation now. And with this extra traffic, it's just gonna get worse. So 25 plus acres across the street were included with this. I'm concerned about what the plan is for that. No plan yet. What about the other tax key that David owns to the south of that? That's going to be part of possibly the next development. What possible zoning could be going in? Is it going to be a multifamily situation? I know you gentlemen probably aren't. I just want to mention these concerns. So concern of that, what could be coming potentially across the street? Okay, so regarding the 60-foot wide public access, I'm a sportsman, I'm a fisherman, I live on the lake, I use the lake, I enjoy the lake, I love the lake. It's a great thing. The city of Muskego has great lakes. Summer months, I feel you're gonna be seeing launching of kayaks, canoes, paddle boards. You're gonna see all kinds of additional lake traffic. You're gonna add 6 homes. Obviously, 6 boats, plus all of their personal watercraft that they're going to add, racing around. Bass Bay is only 104 acres in size. Very small body of water. To be adding all of these other watercraft and boats and traffic. You switch it over to the winter months. I feel you're going to have people launching their four-wheelers and their snowmobiles and using that as access. Even though you may have signage saying no, there's going to be people going for it. I guarantee it. And whether they're breaking the law or not is one thing depending on signage. You're going to create a new ice fishing access to Bass Bay, creating more pressure on the bay. And currently, over the last 5 to 6 years, Sobex has added their own ice fishing pressure by selling a $25 seasonal ice fishing pass to anybody public that wants to come in the bar, buy it from the guy that's working the bar. They have permission to park, permission to launch four-wheelers, snowmobiles, and access the bay. So me fishing, living there, hunting there, loving it, the last 5, 6 years, that lake has significantly gone down in quality of fishing due to what I feel is this current public access that's being allowed. Now you're going to add another point. It's only going to get worse. The lake quality is going to go down. Quality on fishing, yep. Along with added traffic, garbage left behind. Currently now, with the Sobex public launch that they're running, at any given time, I can look out there on a nice Saturday in the wintertime and see 50 to 60 guys out fishing. They vacate and leave, and you can just see with the binoculars the garbage strewn everywhere. I personally have gone out with my machine and collected garbage and pulled garbage in. This situation is only going to make that worse. Could double it. More garbage on the water, floating in spring, washing up on shorelines. What else do I have here? For those wanting access to the bay, could continue to use the furnished launches and access points on Big Muskego. This has been working and satisfying those that use it. Why change things now? Why add public access now? All these years, I've lived there 23 years. Everybody comes down the channel from the big lake. It works perfect. No concerns. Limits the amount of traffic in the summer months too, because big boats can't get out there. Only smaller fishing boats. And it controls, if you will, the traffic and the volume on the bay. Now it comes to parking. So
I'm going to ask if you have subject matter that's been spoken of. Can you just bypass that for now?
Sure,
we get that.
I can bypass my no parking signs that must be put up on Kurtz Lane on both sides of the road.
All right, sir, please.
Okay. Crime. Let's talk about crime then. That hasn't been mentioned. Crime will be a concern with any new public access. You're allowing public to come through. I'm a firefighter, EMT, retired with test corners. I have a police scanner in my home, runs all the time. I listen to police all the time. I know what goes on Little Muskego Lake. We don't want a Little Muskego Lake on Bass's Bay. So I just ask that you take into consideration this public access. It's not going to be a good thing for that body of water or that whole region over there. So, like I say, I understand crime is everywhere. We just don't need it added to Bass Bay Lane, Kurtz Lane, or anywhere in that area. And I completely stand against the addition of a public access. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the commissioners?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
is it not required to have a public access?
it is. It's the law.
Okay, thank you.
So. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Brent Lee, West 165, South 8140. I'm the happy owner that's going to be right next to that outlot, number 1. Just bought there a year and a half ago. I got out of the city for a reason, not to have a neighbor walking 15 feet from my house. I know I'm the unlucky person that has to be next to, but why not think about other options, putting it in the middle? I know Colette talked about it. There's other options. I've got some pictures to show with you, if I can just hand them to you guys. And distribute. We talked about, this is a repeat, I apologize, but wetland, never been mentioned anything.
And I'm going to say again, please, if it's been something that's been brought up already, such as, you can pass that along, but I'm just going to ask you to keep your comments.
A lot of them been brought up, obviously, but big thing is I'm a firefighter myself. This hasn't been brought up. You got a brand new tower truck in the city here. Good luck making a turn. It's a 47-foot radius. We have one where I live and work, or where I work, not live, but it'll never make it down that street. We have problems where I work every day, and it's only gonna get worse. A good example of public access and kayaks and canoes. Take a look at Lower Nabobin on Sawyer Road. That's what we're gonna have here. You can get up and down Sawyer Road, which is Waukesha County 94. They have kayak rentals every weekend, and it bogs down the whole public access. It's the same thing, a walk-on. And I just would hate to see it. Question about the lift station, I know it's been brought up, but usually they're paid for by the developer. What's usually? And when do we know? How do we know? Oh, sorry. So that's my concern. Hate to get in there. My taxes already went up. Assessed value already went up. Now it's gonna sink. So just a lot of things to think about. I know the others have brought it up. I'm really against it. I don't think anybody wants people walking down their yard because they're gonna get to the end. After you look at the pictures, it's about 2 feet deep of water at the end. They're gonna cross into my yard. I can see it happening daily. So those are my concerns.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Any discussion?
I can go first. What's the history on the court and the cul-de-sac there? How was that created? Was that at one time the end of the road and that street was created, or what is the history behind that?
I believe it was created when we ran a sewer lateral down the road, and we, according from what we have from the title search on it, that's when actually all those lots were, or most of the lots down the street, there was a number of them that had homes on them, but people owned the homes, but not the land. Some guy owned like big chunk of this land, but when we ran sewer down there, the landowner has to pay for it. So he divested himself of the land to the people who owned the homes on his land. And at that point, if you look at all the CSMs in that area, a big chunk of them, they're all about 1986, mid-80s. And that's when the sewer was run there and that court was dedicated at that point.
Okay, so sewer was ran, there's one house there, the sewer was ran to the end of that court to serve that house?
I'm guessing because of the property, that remnant property that was left there was large enough to.
Remnant? 2 houses? Okay, my fault. Okay. And then the other question is, obviously the developer has worked through the plan. A lot of the comments tonight are regarding the outlot. We know that the city ordinance notes that. Was there any consideration from the developer to locate the outlot central to this?
Sure.
Sure.
Mr. Survey, if you could come up to the microphone.
So there's been a lot of questions and concerns about the location of the outlot, and obviously the neighbor came and spoke about the outlot being proposed next to his property. You're developing 6 lots. Was there any consideration to center the outlot so that as you're selling these lots, the people buying into those lots accept the fact that they have an outlot next to them?
Not really. I thought because we're doing the contiguous lots, we wanted the lots together. We put the outlot the farthest to the north. That's because we think that's very appropriate. Just FYI too, I don't think anybody will be really using that much because that lot, one of the reasons we did it has the most wetlands. The whole down to the shore is basically all wetlands. So you'll never be able to put a road on it, build on it, or do anything unless the DNR changes their stances on what you can do with wetlands today. So the people that are worried about people coming in on the lots, getting down there, that's over 500 feet long. You'll never be as narrow. I don't see anybody ever backing a car down there with a boat, doing anything, because it's impossible. Plus the DNR will never allow it. So the most people ever be using it will be walking down, looking at the property. Maybe they might be able to carry a canoe in. It will never, ever add to any of the people using boats or anything on the lake. I don't know if anybody here is, most people are old enough to remember Sandy Beach. When I was a kid, there was Sandy Beach. You had a boat launch there. Hundreds of kids would be there every time. They'd have boats come in, pay to take people water skiing because nobody could take anything. The existing Ludwig house was also used as a swimming area. That was all swimming pools under. There was 3 or 4 houses. There's a little building on the bottom was a change house. In the bottom of the house today, it's all showers, all landscapes, everything. Because that was strictly a swimming area in there and a resort back in the 30s and 40s. So, I mean, that's the history. And that road will have to come out. It's not a dedicated public road. It's not built to city standards. The sewer and water will have, there's no water, pardon me. The sewer in there will come out. It's possible that as the next slide, I think it might be in the middle of a lot. So the sewer will use that, the lateral that's in there now as a lot and just cap the rest of it. So any other questions from the board or from the people? Anything?
Regarding the outlot being, it's by law, it has to be put in with the outlot being legally, it has to be put in, and you discussed why you put it where you put it. Has there been any studies done on traffic on outlots? You just stated a few things about what you think. Have there been studies been done on outlots either through the city or through your department?
None whatsoever. Well, I didn't do any outlots. We were just mandated by the DNR, the city, to put it in on our property. So I don't know what else is in the city, the state, or what else goes on. I just know what I was required by the city to do based on the DNR. And we had a choice, so let's just put it close to where it is on one end, and because of the wetlands and narrow lots and et cetera. And then we have all 6 contiguous lots. And just for the public here, every other lot in there is 50 feet wide. I originally thought we could put 12 lots in there. Unfortunately, we have to go 100 feet wide, so we got double what everybody else has for lot widths. So we're ending up with 6 lots. When these get done, it'll be $1 million properties with houses. We'll do nothing except it'll enhance the properties in the surrounding area. So I think it's beneficial for the neighbors and for the city.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any questions from all?
What about the Indian burial?
I can't hear you, young lady.
What about the Indian artifacts and stuff?
I'm deaf.
Why can't the city?
So,
Has your
actually,
research identified the area across the street not being an Indian burial ground? Have you proven that?
Should there be a study done?
The question was across the street, Indian burial ground. I have no idea about the across the street. I'm not buying it, so I have zero idea what it is or was.
thank you, sir.
So you're not developing.
Actually, sir, we're not going to take interaction between you and the developer. So you can have a seat, Mr. Survey.
I'm sorry, I'm deaf and I have very hard of hearing.
You can have a seat. Thank you.
Done?
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Did you have
time.
another question from, actually?
No, I didn't have any further questions for the applicant.
All right. Any more comments or discussion from the board itself? Yes.
If the outlot is a wetland and you can't use it, are there restrictions as to trampling through a wetland?
You can do things to wetland. Wetlands aren't hands off. You couldn't just pave a concrete path through the wetland or something like that. You can do a boardwalk. The DNR very commonly now, wetland fill under a certain amount of square footage is a given with the DNR under current state law. So it's not uncommon to have some kind of, we have record trails all over the city that somehow traverse a wetland. Minimal impacts, things like that, especially if you're looking at boardwalk or it's impossible to program the site until the proper groups look at that, like park and conservation. It's not a question of what's going to be there. It's a question of that it has to be there. And that's something that's looked at by those appropriate boards. But wetland or not, yeah, I mean, if you're on a lake, you're probably gonna have wetland on your frontage. It's pretty much a given anywhere in the state of Wisconsin.
The Parks Department will review that lake access as well. And do they have the ability to put any additional mandates on that access parcel?
Yes, they could through council. They're recommending body to the common council.
So these individuals who have some concerns can raise that at that time?
They can. I'll warn you that it's the idea of the ordinance, which has been in place for decades, on why we do this is to have access. So they're not going to put restrictions on access to it.
No,
they're going to like.
Not my point. Not my point.
Okay,
It's
I just
more
want to
of
be clear about that.
more of controls.
Right.
As compared to maybe existing access points on Little Lake, Muskego, or other access points that we already have, which obviously they may not be as concerned about, but since this is home turf, they're by far more concerned about it.
Absolutely.
That's the sense that I've got. So giving them an outlet as compared to us reviewing a division of a property and the ordinance associated with it.
Correct. So a couple things that should be brought up here. For one, while the outlot is the biggest point of contention here, it's probably the one we have the least control over for the sake of actually having an outlot. That has been clear. It's been in our ordinances for decades. State statutes address it with subdivisions when those are created. Our local ordinance addresses it with CSMs. So that's going to be there. So as far as outlots that we have on the Little Lake, last year we took points, or we took measures to consider those all parks now. So meaning that they have the same regulations. They actually have a closing time. You got to be out by a certain time. So we're trying to address any issues that people around the Little Lake have had with them, which will fall into the same thing on this one. As far as the layout of how the lots are laid out, and Adam, correct me if I'm wrong on this, because you do this every day and I don't, but we have ordinances and there's state statutes as far as what has to, the shape, the width, all of that, the size, for when it comes to how lots are laid out and how they're divided up. Our job as a community are to make sure that the ordinances and those rules are followed. We don't design the thing for them. So they design it, present it to us. It either meets our ordinances or it doesn't. We can make suggestions to them, but they have no obligation to, put one lot somewhere else or anything else. So if it's meeting our ordinances and it meets any safety issues that we may have or something like that, that would be something that would be addressed, but that's all covered through the code. So, I know people enjoy their lake. I get that. I'm a lake owner property myself. I know, what you like to enjoy and things that concern you. But at one point, one person probably lived on that lake, and then your houses were all there, and somebody didn't like that either. I understand your concerns, and but the property owner has rights as well. So it's that balancing act we all have to do. And I think what our job up here is to make sure that this is meeting our code and that both sides are being represented up here. So sometimes it's a tough balancing act. Any other comments or questions? Yes, sir.
I have two additional, comments or questions. So this tonight is split into two. Is that correct, if I'm reading that? And we're right now discussing technically the first of the two?
Yeah, they're consecutive on the agenda, but technically the first one creates the outlot, lot 1, lot 2, and lot 3. Lot 3 gets subdivided into 4 lots. So a total of 6 lots, 1 outlot in the end.
Okay. Was there a strategic reason for splitting it into 2?
They have to. You can only have 4 lots on one CSM. We have this constantly. In fact, we've had one recently that was 3 consecutive. So
Okay,
just a different way to plat land.
okay. That answers everything.
Last one, all right.
Leonard Pilak, West 165, South 8108, Kurtz Lane. The Indian burial grounds and the artifacts and things of that nature, because of the lake has a rich history of it, I am kind of shocked that we're not going to move forward with that being taken care of. Schultz Rod and Gun Club was going to do some future expansion, and they were asked to do that very same thing. When a geologist or archaeologist came out there to, why would they do that for this property? The Indians weren't around in this area. There was no reported or nor continuous findings in that particular area, but yet we went through the, a couple $1,000s to find somebody to come out and take a look at our property. Needs to be done, needs to be done. But because of the rich history on Bass's Bay, there's a reason to do it.
And the approving a plot and the layout of it has no impact on disturbing anything at that point. What a land disturbance permit, a building permit, all of those are things that are coming down the line that
That'll be addressed at that time?
that would be something to be
Won't be
brought up
staying
as
more
we
of your
go.
time.
into
Thank
this.
you.
Yeah, the land division ordinance doesn't address that, and we can't just make up rules as we go. But it is something that I'm sure we'll do some due diligence on to kind
Right.
of see for those future activities what it may mean.
Correct. Any other discussion amongst the commission? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to resolution PC 036, 2022, approval of a second 4-lot certified survey map for Ken Survey for property located at South 81 West 18981 Kurtz Lane, tax key number 2218981.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion. Pretty much same thing
Yeah.
we talked about, it's just the other half of the. Yes, sir.
Then the only point I would have on this is, at the beginning of this, there was some mention of attorney language. That does apply to this.
They're both, they was added to both
Okay.
resolutions.
Okay. All right.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Resolution PC 037, 2022, approval of a building site and operation plan amendment for Mark Knutson of Pop's Pub on Pioneer, located at W180 South 7808 Pioneer Drive, tax key number 2196983.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion, Adam?
So this item is a building site operation plan amendment for Pop's Pub on Pioneer, just down the street here. The owner is looking at doing what they're calling Muskego Market. They want to do this a couple times a month, the second and fourth Saturdays of May, June, July, and August from 11 to 3. Basically what they want to do is just create a kind of market feel for the community. Different vendors can come and participate. They would be closing off the parking lot during that limited time period. So the parking lot would be allowed to be for vendors and walking traffic. We are lucky enough that Pioneer has a pretty good area of street parking, and street parking is actively used and encouraged as we deal with that area today. So during that, what is it here, a 4-hour period, the parking lot would be closed, parking would be on the street for people that were attending the market. This is something that is only being approved or listed for a 1 year. If issues do start coming up with traffic or anything like that, this could obviously be brought back anytime under nuisance concerns, but it would only be for the 2022 season. They are expecting anywhere from 20 to 40 vendors if the turnout is well, and depending on how it would go this year would depend on what they would want to look at for the future. They're looking at just a 1 year thing. We do have a couple notes in there about any signage. We want to make sure signage doesn't get put all over the place because of this, and that if there are any areas that we do want to restrict parking or something, they would have to work with proper DPW and engineering staff for any kind of restrictions on signage or parking out there.
Comments, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Miscellaneous business, we have none. A motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned at 6:55. Thank you, everyone.